existence, Jesus was a created spirit being, just as angels were spirit beings created by God. Well, it actually doesn't plainly say that. Neither the angels nor Jesus had existed before the creation. Having been created by God, Jesus is in a secondary position, time, power, and knowledge. Jesus in his pre-human existence was the firstborn of all creation, Colossians 1:15. Yes, Jesus was created by God as the beginning of God's invisible creations. So Colossians 1:15 is supposed to prove Jesus is the first created being, because it says he's the firstborn of every creature. And the Watchtower says creature should be the word creation, and the word creature could be translated creation also. So they say here, firstborn of every creature means Jesus is the first created being. That is the argument. Firstborn of every creature. Or they say firstborn of all creation, something like that. So let's see what this word firstborn means. So what this argument is saying is that firstborn means first created. So firstborn means he's the first created being. He's the first of all the creatures that are made. And that's what this first part of Colossians 1:15 is supposed to prove. Now, look at the context, because a text without a context is a pretext. Is there something in verse 16 and 17 that doesn't make any sense at all if verse 15 were to say that Jesus is a creature who was created?
By him all things were created.
Yeah, the very next verse says he's the creator. So it would be very, very strange if in 15b it said Jesus is created, he's a creature. And then in verse 16a it said that he was the creator. That would be very, very strange. So let's read the actual passage. He was the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. For by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body of the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things might have preeminence. For please the Father, in him should all fullness dwell, and so on. I'll read verse 22. And having made peace with the blood of his cross, by him to reconcile all things unto himself, by him I say whether there be things in earth or things in heaven. Alright, so the very next verses plainly say he's the creator. He's not a thing. He created all things. If he created all things, and all things are created by him, and all things are created for him, he isn't a thing. Very, very clear in the next verses. So, and creation exists to please God. Revelation 4:11 says we're here for God's pleasure. So if we're here for Christ, he has to be the creator. He has to be Jehovah. So the very next following context makes this Unitarian argument very problematic. Now, so what do we do with the word firstborn? The Greek word firstborn is prototokos, which means firstborn. There's a word in Greek for first created. I don't want to misspell. Protoktistos. Proto is the first part. So there's a different Greek word that means first created. There's also protoplasios, first formed. So he didn't say in Colossians 1:15, he didn't say protoktistos, first created. He said prototokos, firstborn. And firstborn does not equal first created. They mean two different things. If Paul had wanted to say Christ is the first created being, he would have contradicted many other passages in the Bible. He would have contradicted verse 16. But he also didn't use that word. He would have used a different word to say first created. Now, maybe that's true. Let's see. Hello? Yeah, who's talking, please? Oh, fine. Actually, in the middle of something. Can you try calling back later? I don't know. Whenever you like. Okay, thank you. Bye. Yeah, I don't know where Julie is. I'm gonna turn the phone off now. Because if she's not here, I don't know. I think she was teaching this ESL class, like how to teach ESL, and she said she'd be here this week. Maybe they got the weeks confused. I don't know. Anyway, so first born and first created are not the same. Normally I would keep the phone off. Keep your phones off when you are in church. All right. Anyway, what does firstborn mean? Well, it doesn't mean first created. It doesn't mean first formed. What does it mean? Well, for the sake of time, I'll read some of the passages here. Actually, I'll read footnote 178 because that's actually worthwhile. Based on firstborn of every creature, Colossians 1:15, Colossians 1, the Arians inferred that Christ himself is a ktissis, a creature of God, to wit the first creature of all. But prototokos is not equivalent to protoktistos or protopleistos, first created, first formed. On the contrary, Christ is by this very term, prototokos, firstborn, distinguished from the creation. A creature cannot possibly be the source of life for all creatures. The text indicates the distinction between the eternal generation of the Son from the essence of the Father and the temporal creation of the world out of nothing by the Son. Yet there is a difference between monogenes, only begotten, and prototokos, firstborn, which Athanasius himself makes, the former referring to the relation of the Son to the Father, the latter to his relation to the world. Okay, what does firstborn mean? Well, on page 85 here I mentioned, in Israel the right of the firstborn was a double portion inheritance. The firstborn son had privileges over his siblings. The firstborn, as the chief of his household strength, Psalm 105:36, 78:51, possessed the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power, Genesis 49:3. The firstborn son of the monarch inherited the kingdom of Israel, 1 Chronicles 3 and many other passages. Except in an extraordinary situation where God, by a specific revelation, instructed otherwise, 1 Chronicles 3, 5:25, and transferred the authority to the firstborn. So notice here, firstborn, well, I'll keep going here. Scripture employs the word firstborn to refer to one who is first in rank, a position of special authority, exaltation, or blessing, rather than using the word for birth order only. The uses of the world outside the realm of human or animal birth to refer to things that are in a heightened, exalted, or extreme state, rather than the first appearance of such things temporally, supports this fact, Isaiah 14:30, Job 18:30. Further evidence comes from Jacob's receipt of the firstborn position and the blessings of the Abrahamic covenant over his elder brother Esau, Genesis 25:23, and many other passages. Ephraim received the position of firstborn, the position of one greater than the older Manasseh, Genesis 48, Deuteronomy 33, and Joseph's receiving firstborn status over his elder brother Reuben, Genesis 49, 1 Chronicles 5:1. 1 Chronicles 26:10 makes this connection between rule and firstborn status explicit. Hosa of the children of Mari had sons, of which Simri was the chief, for though he was not the firstborn in time, yet his father made him the chief. We don't know why the elder son, the actual son that was born first, didn't get the position. Deuteronomy 21:16 indicates that a father practicing polygamy was not to, of his own volition, choose to make the son of a preferred wife firstborn, and so give the favored child greater inheritance rights. So, Israel also was called God's firstborn, Exodus 4:22, but Israel wasn't the first nation created, but it received special privilege. So what does this title of firstborn mean? Firstborn is a position of authority. It's not talking about a time of created order, but a position of authority. Ephraim was given the position of authority over Manasseh, even though Manasseh was his older brother. Jacob was given the firstborn position over Esau, even though Esau was his older brother. Joseph was given it over Reuben, even though Joseph was one of the later children born. So when Christ is called the firstborn of every creature, it means he has the position of authority over the creation. It's not talking about a temporal time of creation, saying he's a created being. It's saying he has authority over every creation, over every creature, as having the position of firstborn. Why does he have the authority? Verse 16, because he's the creator. Because it's the creator, he has the position of authority of firstborn. That's what it's actually talking about. This is a little bit out of order, but Colossians 1:15 is alluding to Psalm 89:27. If you talk to an Arian, and he says, Colossians 1:15, this proves Jesus is the first created being, ask him what passage in the Old Testament is being referred to. And he almost surely, I've never had one, no. I've never talked to JW who actually knew this was referring to Psalm 89:27, which is kind of a problem for them. But Psalm 89:27 is a messianic psalm. And here, talking about the Messiah, it says, I will make him my firstborn, higher than the kings of the earth. So here the Messiah is going to be exalted and given this position of firstborn. I will make him my firstborn. He will have, and what is the firstborn position? It's being higher than the kings of the earth. Okay? So it's a position of exaltation, higher than the kings of the earth. The Messiah is going to get. Psalm 89:27. So firstborn, position, Christ is the firstborn because he's higher than the kings of the earth. Now, what is the sense of the word of? In English, the word of can have lots of different meanings. When it says he's the firstborn, he has a position of authority. Is he the firstborn of every creature in the sense that he is a creature? Or is he a firstborn in the sense that he's over the creatures? Well, it's actually the latter. The word of, if you look at footnote 185, these are other texts that illustrate the sense of the word of here. Of has the sense of over. He's of every creature in the sense that he's over the creatures. Like in Matthew 9:34, Satan, Beelzebub, is the prince of the devils, meaning he has authority over the devils. He's the prince over the devils. The Messiah is King of kings and Lord of lords, meaning he's king over kings and lord over lords. Mark 15:32, the king of Israel, the king over Israel. 2 Corinthians 4:4, the God of this world. Satan is called that, the one who rules over this world. John 12:31, the ruler of the world, the ruler over the world. And so, when it says that the genitive of every creature is a genitive of subordination, specifying that which is subordinated to the head down firstborn. So, firstborn of every creature means he has this position of authority, firstborn, of, in the sense of over, every creature, all the creation. So he's the firstborn, and he has the authority of the firstborn over every creature. Why does he have it? Because by him were created all things in heaven and earth, 16 and 17. So that's the sense of. Now, remember, in Colossians 1, these are texts where the Arians have the burden of proof. We've actually clearly shown here that it's not talking about him being part of creation at all. We've proven that by the context. But we didn't even need to do that. All we needed to do was say, this could mean that he has a position, and of could possibly mean over. And they would have to prove that of means he's part of creation, and firstborn doesn't mean it's a position of authority. It actually means he's the first created being. They would have to prove that. You can't just assert it and read it into the text. If it's your proof text, you need to prove that there's no other reasonable possibility. So they would have to prove that this must mean what they say, and show that what we're saying is not even possible. If we show that what we're saying is even possible, they're out. But this is not just possible, this is clearly what it means. So clearly, firstborn is a position, and the context of verse 16 to 17 shows that he's the creator, not a creature. So we've shown way more than we have to deal with Colossians 1:15 as a proof text. So what it's saying is Christ has the position of firstborn over the creation because he is the creator. What do the lexica, the Greek dictionaries, say the word firstborn means anyway? On page 88, we see what the word means. The Low 9 lexicon says it means pertaining to existing superior to all else of the same or related class, superior to above all. The Standard Read lexicon BDAG, to have a special status associated with the firstborn, derived from the special status enjoyed by the firstborn son, as heir apparent in Israel. So Christ is firstborn because he has authority over the creation. He has a preeminence over the creation in verse 18, Colossians 1:18. And he's worshipped as God because he's the firstborn. In Hebrews 1:6, if you remember, it says, and when he bringeth in the first begotten into the world, he saith, let all the angels of God worship him. So he's worshipped as God because he has this position of firstborn over the creation. So when Arians argue that Christ, this is a summary, page 89. When Arians argue that Christ was created because he is called firstborn in Colossians 1:15, they must, among other serious difficulties, overlook the lexical distinction between the Greek words firstborn and first created, the overwhelming contextual evidence that the Son is creator, not a creature, the significance of firstborn as a position of authority in both the Old and New Testaments, and the prophecy of the Messiah as firstborn in Psalm 89:27. An accurate understanding of the Lord Jesus as the firstborn over the creation powerfully validates his deity rather than denying it. So, oh, by the way, in footnote 188, the word higher, from the Messiah being higher than the kings of the earth, is used elsewhere in the Psalter only for God and quite very frequently for God as the one who is higher. And so actually even in Psalm 27 to support the deity of Christ's identity with Jehovah. Any questions on Colossians 1:15? How Christ is firstborn over the creature because he's the first position of authority over the creation. Is that pretty clear? Okay, good. It's a little bit early to take a break. We'll take a break now because then the next subject might take a little while. And so we'll take a break now and come back around 10.